It's February, folks. The football season is pretty much over with the exception of the Super Bowl. And in a matter of days, the best words in baseball are going to be coming up on the horizon, which is pitchers and catchers report down in either Florida or Arizona. As this Pirates team coming into this year, there's some things to look forward to, despite what happened last year. And with the way that the NL Central has been this offseason, you know what? Why not us? What's going on, everybody? Good Friday to you. I am Mac, back with another video. As always, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Instagram. Link is in the box below. Let's talk some Pirates baseball, man. As like I said, there are some things to look forward to for this year for the Bucs. Obviously, the two biggest components about why I'm just proceeding with caution are Endy Rodriguez missing the whole season because of his UCL surgery. And of course, I don't need to sit down here and say how I feel about Derek Shelton. But let's talk about what the Bucs did basically for last year. It was a 76-86 season. They did get off to a 20-8 start at the end of April, and then they belly flopped the rest of the way. But you know what? Looking back on it, it was a young team. There were a lot of growing pains. Going into last season, they had 2 straight 100-loss seasons. And if you want to count 2020, they had a 100-loss winning percentage that season. So you could really say they had 3 straight 100-loss seasons going into last season. And myself and a lot of other Pirate fans, why does Derek Shelton have a job? Why does he continue to mismanage the bullpen? Why can't this bum put a lineup together? We got off to the start that we had offensively. Basically without O'Neal Cruz for the whole season. And he's made progress with his recovery. We only had 2 starters in the entire rotation step up, who were Mitch Keller and Johan Oviedo. And then, of course, we saw the debuts of Henry Davis, Endy Rodriguez, and Quinn Priester. Those were just debuts. Not that they're going to keep putting up those kind of numbers their whole career. They were debuts. And they figure to be pivotal pieces to this core. And now the Pirates, they had some significant strides. There were moments where they were stealing bags left and right. We were putting runs up on the board. We were gathering base hits. They were even hitting a lot of homers per game. And then it's like, okay, they played a tough schedule in May, and then they just showed, maybe they're just not ready quite yet. And then they just pretty much hovered at or over 500 the rest of the way. But overall, looking at it, it was a losing season, which I'm not satisfied about. I can't call it a successful season. But it's a different kind of losing season that the Bucs had in previous years. Where it's like, it's not all doom and gloom. It's not all, well, this is going nowhere. It's the same old Pirates. Now you figure going into 2024, it's like this team has components to be competitive. Because you take a look at what the other NL Central teams have done. The Chicago Cubs, they've been kind of silent this offseason, aside from improving the bullpen. The Cubs have been a team that's kind of been on the same trajectory as us, just with a different timeline. The Reds, pretty much the same way. They've been, in the same trajectory as us as well. They have a couple of good call-ups. Of course, you got De La Cruz tearing it down there in Cincinnati. And the thing that the Pirates, Reds, and Cubs all have in common is this. They all have 5 top 100 prospects. So it's really going to be a horseshoe race between these 3 teams in the NL Central. Then you look at Milwaukee. I really don't know what direction they're headed because they didn't get better, but they didn't get worse. They just kind of stayed put. I don't know what life without Craig Counsell's going to be like for them. Brandon Woodruff is gone. Can Christian Yelich stay healthy and return to that MVP form that he had a couple years back? And now they just lost Corbin Burnes to Baltimore. So you figure, I really don't know where Milwaukee's going to be. They just kind of seem like they're in a state of flux right now. And then St. Louis. Everyone, myself included this time last year, they were sitting down here going like, well, there's only one team in this division. That's the clear-cut winners and the clear-cut team to run away with it all. And that's St. Louis. Well, they went 71-91 last year. And yes, I can't hold back the smile saying that because you guys know how I feel about the Cardinals. I can't stand that team down in St. Louis. But they went 71-91. Last place in the division. First time the Pirates finished above St. Louis in the standings since 1999. And while they did add to the pitching, it's still down. Their ERA is still through the roof. They have no wins above replacement. And let's face it, for as good and let's say for as good and as important as Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt are, they aren't getting any younger. So St. Louis might actually start to be on the downturn. And now with the way that the MLB playoffs are set up, all you really have to do is beat the other 4 teams in your division. And while the Pirates still cannot beat the Brewers to save their lives, they were terrible against the Chicago Cubs last year, sure. But guess what? They've been owning the Reds over the past couple years, and they had a winning season against St. Louis. They took 9 out of 13 against St. Louis last year. All you got to do is beat the other 4 teams in the division, and you got to step it up against your conference as well. And the Pirates have shown that. They took 5 out of 6 against San Diego. They gave the Dodgers some headaches last year. Took 4 out of 6 against Colorado. Had their way with Washington, sure, who they're not a great team either, but they're a team that you should be able to beat. Hung in there with the Mets for some time. Hung in there with Philly for some time. They even hung in there with Atlanta, the Braves, who I think had the best record in all of baseball last year. And then, yeah, they struggled with Miami too, and San Francisco, and Arizona. Those are the only outliers outside of the Cubs and Brewers. The point is, the Pirates have shown they can beat some of these good teams. And while they still may be able to finish against them, they've shown they can compete against them. And all you have to do nowadays is just get into the playoffs in the MLB, and you have a chance. Did anybody expect Arizona, of all teams, to win the NL pennant and go to the World Series and compete against the Texas Rangers? That's another team. Did anyone expect Texas, of all teams, to take down Houston in the ALCS and win their first World Series? Here's the point. Why not the Pirates? Why not the Bucs? You have a Gold Glover now at third base in Ke'Bryan Hayes. You got Brian Reynolds locked up in the outfield for the largest contract in the franchise's history. You got Jack Sawinski, who's got really good pop, 30 home run potential player. You got Henry Davis, who is going to have to step things up in Andy Rodriguez's absence, but hey, Henry Davis is no slouch himself. You got Mitch Keller, who was the laughingstock of the entire rotation in the analytical department, and he only turned in his best season that he's ever had. You got Jared Jones down in the bullpen. And then down in the farm, you got some guys that you're hopeful to get at least a little bit of a cameo for this year, like Tamar Johnson. And this kid out of LSU who just happens to be the top pitching prospect in all of baseball, and Paul Skeens. Do I expect to see him pitch this season? Probably not. I still think 2025 is the target for him. And then, of course, you got strength in the roster, a healthy O'Neal Cruz, and you got all these other prospects that if you call them up at the right time, this team really could be a contender. And they really could make some noise in the National League. And like I said at the beginning, the main difference between going into last season and this season is last season, it was just, same old Pirates. They didn't do anything. They, just brought back Andrew McCutchen for fan service, But you still have a losing season this year, or 2023 rather. But now you're adding to it, and you're building off of a core that's there. The core is here. Your future is here. And that was established at basically the deadline last year. This is the future of Pittsburgh baseball that's going to be competing. And like I said weeks ago, there is absolutely no excuse for Derek Shelton to mismanage a bullpen, to keep pitchers out there for unnecessary innings, give up unnecessary runs. And he should not be able to fail with a team like this. I'm telling you, man, this Pirates team, for the first time in a long time, is really giving me some hope going forward. Now, I'm not sitting down here saying, yeah, the Pirates are going to be a playoff team this year because we just added Aroldis Chapman to the back end of the bullpen more likely than not. I am proceeding with caution, and I do have a little bit more of optimism. The first time I would say in about 9 years since that 2015 season when the Bucs won 98 games. This is the most confident I've felt with the Pirates going forward for almost a decade. And I can't wait for pitchers and catchers to report, and I honestly can't wait for spring training to begin, much less for the regular season to begin. Let me know what you think down in the comments below about the Buccos, man. This is Mac checking on out for the day. Have a good one, everybody.